People here, going live, going live. This hangout on air is live. These are the words that I'm reading right now, and I do hope that means something. This is the VO podcast. Hello, everyone. My name is Dan Simpson, and today with us, we have Jesse Springer. Jesse, say hi.
Howdy. ¿Qué pasa?
You know I don't.
Great to be here, man.
Spanish. Well, it's great to have you here, and I truly appreciate you being here. Thank you for spending your time with me today and with us. You know, obviously, this is going to be broadcast live, but it's also going to be on YouTube, and you guys can watch this on YouTube anytime you want, you know, right before you're going to bed, you know, right as you wake up, and, of course, any moment in between those two moments and on the opposite side, you guys get it. You can watch the show anytime you want. But this is the VO podcast, the hashtag VO podcast. You can find us on Twitter at the VO podcast. I'm on Twitter at iDanSimpsonVO, and my guest is Jesse Springer. He's on Twitter at Jesse Springer VO. Is that right, Jesse?
It's just Jesse Springer. I lucked out. I was kind of an early adopter on Twitter. I know now it's, you know, your name could be the most obscure name in all of history, and you're still not going to get it. But I think I don't know when I got on, but I think, when did Twitter come about? Like 2008, 2009, something like that. I think I was on pretty early. So, and now all the new social platforms coming out, I'm like, please just stop. Like this Periscope live video, there's just more and more every day. Man, I can't even breathe.
Right. Well, you got that locked down on Twitter, and that is at Jesse Springer. Let's go ahead and talk to you guys about what Jesse's done, and then we'll go ahead and launch into the podcast. We'll ask him some questions. We'll demand that he gives us good quality answers. Of course, we take your answers and we turn them into hashtag VO tips that I share through Twitter. You guys can take those, and hopefully you can retweet those to all your VO friends. Let's talk about Jesse. His career began at age 15 in sunny Seattle, Washington. At 18, he packed his bags, moved to LA, spent 2 years in film school, then dropped out to accept an account position at an ad agency, where he was eventually promoted to creative director, working on accounts with Ryan Seacrest, Mario Lopez, Giuliana Rancic. Help me out there.
Yeah, Giuliana Rancic.
Okay, well, one might ask you.
Yeah, an E! Entertainment host.
Okay. In 2012, apparently, Jesse, you left the firm to dedicate yourself to voiceover client base, and now you're the voice of Kia, Walmart. You do AXS TV, Fox Radio, Weather Channel, AMPM, and as I learned today, you are the co-host of a really excellent podcast.
Thanks, man.
I thank you. It's called Blurred Radio. It's a bi-weekly podcast, explores creativity, innovation, and the work behind the work in marketing, film, and emerging media. My gosh, Jesse, again, let's just go ahead and introduce you again. Thank you so much for being here. Where are you today?
I'm just outside of LA. Well, if you know LA, it's called Burbank. So there's LA and Hollywood, and then this big hill where all the rich people live. And then just on the other side of the hill is the valley. So I'm in Burbank, which is, you know, Mark Grau has his studio out here. Calmanson is out here. There are a lot of great studios, a lot of the voiceover stuff tends to happen in the valley. So it's a cool area, but I'm only here for another month or so. And then I'm actually moving out to Santa Monica. So
Santa Monica, what's going on there?
You know, it's just, I would say probably 90% of the work that I do, fortunately, I get to do from home, from my studio here, but there's kind of a small percentage of it that's, and honestly, it's really exciting to me to be able to leave the house. And I have some of my clients, like Kia, for example, they like to do everything in person, and we'll have sometimes, 4 to 5 sessions a week. And all of those we do at one of 3 or 4 studios in Santa Monica, depending on the producer and what the project is. So it's to get, if you look at a map, it's all from Burbank to Santa Monica is strangely only, 14 miles or something, but it takes an hour and a half to get down there. If it's, morning or middle of the day. So it just makes more sense to be out there where the ISDN is flowing like honey still. Fortunately, it's dying in most of the rest of the world, but yeah. So Santa Monica it is, beach living.
Oh, I do enjoy California and the beach
Yeah,
in
man.
California. I'm super jealous
Oh,
of you.
yeah.
I'm in Chicago right now. It's raining, but at least it's somewhat warm, so I'll take it. I'll take
Yeah,
it.
it's way too warm here, man. I mean, I've been in the booth all day. Fortunately, I got out to go for a jog, but it's excruciating. I feel like I'm still sweating from that jog. It's 95 degrees outside. It's probably half suicidal to try and venture out there, but you got to do what you got to do to keep the energy up. Yeah,
It's a dry heat, is that right?
it is in Burbank. Yeah, if you go a little bit further south, like the Santa Monica, uh, Costa Mesa, some of those, Orange County can be a little more humid, but up here, yeah, man, it's dry. It's dry, and we get those Santa Ana winds. Actually, this year was one of the first years I've had a pretty serious problem with allergies, because these Santa Ana winds are coming in and they're so dry, and it's brutal, man. There were actually a couple of sessions that I had to reschedule just because of just congestion. Pretty gnarly. So that's another reason I'm looking forward to getting out of here.
Well, best of luck down there.
Yeah.
Hopefully everything works out all right. Let's go ahead and talk to you a little bit more about your voiceover career. When did you first begin voiceovers, and what led you to that place where you were interested in voice acting?
Well, when I was 14 or 15, I think it was 15, I had kind of a personal mentor in my life who, when I was living up in Seattle, where there's very little voiceover, I mean, there's voiceover work up there, but only if you know the people on the two coasts. But this personal mentor of mine was at the time doing a lot of the promos for Disney Channel and Alaska Airlines. He had a bunch of big, huge accounts, and I had no idea what voiceover was. But one day I think he was like playing our class this video of something that he did a narration for. I was like, what the heck is this? Just went up to him, talked to him, said, first of all, what is this? How would I get into it? And Mike Mattioy is his name. He's one of those guys who's just everywhere, and you've never heard of him, which is one of the beautiful things about voiceover. So he pointed me in the right direction. I took some acting classes up in Seattle, and as a high schooler, I was thinking like, man, maybe I can carry this over into the on-camera world. I did one commercial campaign as a high schooler, and I said, never again. It's so tedious and image obsessed, and like, I don't know, it wasn't the world for me. I don't even really like having a camera on me. This is a necessary evil, Dan, only for your glory. But
I appreciate that. Thank you, Jesse.
But yeah, I mean, the beautiful thing about voiceover is you can just kind of do your own thing, working away in your private place, and then if you're lucky enough, get out to see some fellow human beings every once in a while. So so he pointed me to some really, really good teachers up in Seattle. And then when I turned 18, I said, basically this weather is depressing the hell out of every aspect of my being. I want to get down to the sun. I want to get down to the creative mecca of the United States. So I packed my bags, moved to LA. And as you were saying earlier, I went to film school. Did a little bit of commercial directing, which I still do occasionally every now and then, but with voiceover, it's kind of difficult to commit to projects now. So, so I went to film school for a couple of years, dropped out, got into the agency world, which was actually a really, really valuable experience to me, because I was able to come out of that having written copy, directed performers, the best of the best for clients in all sorts of different areas, and I kind of had my finger on the pulse a little bit, perhaps in ways that I wouldn't if I were just watching TV or taking classes or something. So, and then of course the relationships that come out of that are invaluable. So it made it a lot easier to kind of jump ship from there when the time was right to pursue voiceover full time, and it's been a hell of a roller coaster since then. I can tell you that.
Well, really cool, and Continued success to you, of course. Let's talk about you know, some of those skills that maybe you had that you felt were suited to jumping into the voiceover world. What skills did you feel were you know, were on your side?
I think probably I would have to say one really important one is just is understanding how to work with talent, how to direct. I think it's a common plight of a voiceover artist to get into a session, and I'll speak specifically to commercials because that's probably 90% of what I do, to get into a session and to be given direction by somebody who maybe doesn't have any experience with that, and to let that get inside of your head. I mean, I've been guilty of it myself, certainly, where you keep getting. There was one session I had recently. I will definitely not say who it was for, but it was a big national campaign, and the director in there was somebody I'd never worked with before, and I you know, probably 21 years old. This definitely seemed to be his first session. And in a situation like that, fortunately, as a talent, you're able to kind of rely on the engineer, because he'll, you know, walk in or whisper something into your ear, like, I think maybe they're going for this. But in that session, the direction I got, it was for 1 30-second spot in a few different variations of it. And the session went for upwards of 3 hours, which is ridiculous in the commercial space to have a session that goes that long for 1 30-second spot. But it went that long because the direction I got, and I kid you not, after every take was, let's go, you know, just keep it conversational, which is great. Yeah. Like, you know, that's, you know, I get it. But one, you know, from directing other people myself, I've been able to realize that, you know, conversational is not really a complete direction. You know, you can be having a conversation. I can be having a conversation with you here. I can be having a conversation with my girlfriend over drinks in a bar. You know, there are all sorts of different environments and different attitudes that you can take in a conversation, from something that's more intimate and, intimate and sincere, to something that's like off the wall excited. You know, there's just this whole landscape that falls under that conversational umbrella. So in a situation like that, you know, I'm able to kind of confer with the engineer when time allows, get his sense of what they're going for. Sometimes in a session they won't give you any sense of the music bed or of the visuals. So, and you know, sometimes I'll say, could I get maybe 15 seconds of the bed to get a sense of kind of the tonal range, the frequency range that we're trying to keep things in. So I think coming from an agency like that, where, you know, like Ryan Seacrest, for example, I was writing copy for one of our clients that was, you know, that Ryan was doing the VOs for daily. And with it, you know, he's a guy who has no time. Like he sleeps like 2 hours a night. You know, the dude's a madman. And there's just no time for frill or for, you got to know what you want, and you got to be able to communicate it clearly. And so in a session, when that's not being fed to you, you can kind of, once you've been there and made some of the mistakes yourself, you can kind of figure out what they're going for by reading between the lines. So that would definitely be, that's part of it for sure.
Yeah. So your experience working as a director has sort of enabled you to work more efficiently with other directors, of all skill levels. That's really an interesting point, and I could definitely see that. You say you worked with Ryan Seacrest. It says Mario Lopez here, and help me out here, Giuliana
Rancic. Yeah, it's been all over the place. I mean, Hulk Hogan. Man, I couldn't even remember everybody. It's, but yeah, I mean, it's that's kind of an incomplete picture, I think, because on like some of my in the directing seat, some of my like my favorite people to work with would be like Bill Rogers, who's you know, he's a voiceover guy. That's all he does, and it's like the voice of the Disneyland parks, and somebody I look up to a lot and really admire. And working with him,
you remember any of those sessions, perchance?
Maybe bits and pieces. Well, I remember this would be another thing I kind of carried over to my performing side is Bill Rogers does so much work in voiceover from, you know, from dawn till dusk that there were some times where he would just he'd curse me out, like, you know, but I can tell it's coming from a place of love and respect, and sort of like, I'm just gonna, you know, poke at the new guy a little bit. You know, I was young. I mean, I'm still I'm 27 now, and then I was 20, 21, 22, and he just knows how to not take shit, and how to do it in a way that's not offensive. Because, you know, when your client's paying your bills, you can't just look at the director and say, you know, you clearly have no idea what's going on here. Have you ever sat in that seat before? You know, you have to watch your words, of course.
You got to power through.
Right. But, you know, Bill's able to do that with a sense of humor. And I think that's something that's really valuable, and something that's, you know, if you can kind of pick up those little tricks and little things you can poke at, it can make the session more fun, and, you know, ease some of the tension a little bit. You know, if it's a new director, somebody who's totally green, they're coming in with a lot of tension. They're stressed. They've got their creative director, and then the president of the agency, and their CMO of the client, you know, that they've got to impress. So they're stressed out. And as a VO talent, if it's a new client, you might be a little stressed too. So it's good to have little ways to kind of ease some of that tension.
Did you submit him to a 3-hour recording session for a 30-second commercial?
Yeah, no, it was 7 hours. Yeah. No. I thank God. I don't think I've ever been quite in that range. But yeah.
Okay, so you worked as a director. You worked with obviously some really interesting names, some big names in just the world of entertainment, and big names in VO. That's really, really interesting. I'm loving hearing these stories. Anything else that maybe you've left out about that experience?
Wow, man. You know, it's weird. It's one of those things, like, you have so many stories, so many experiences. I mean, I've seen the best in me and the worst in me through those times working at the agency. I've had calls with networks where I've lost my shit and cursed somebody out who I shouldn't have cursed out, gotten into big trouble over that. And then I've kind of played the other side of the game, where I'm a little too lenient, and then stuff falls through the cracks. And yeah, I mean, as far as stories go, it's just more than I can remember on the fly, for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So since then, you've been doing voiceovers. You say, I think you've mentioned to me that you do a lot of your voiceovers out of your home. That's where you do most of your work. It says here you do Kia, you do Walmart, and a handful of other things, including your podcast as well. Do you want to talk about any of those projects, and maybe some things you learned along the way?
Yeah. Well, let's see. I guess Key is a good one to start with, because I've been doing their radio and television now for about a year and a half, and I've learned a few really important lessons along the way. One of which is you might have to work on the weekends, so don't fly somewhere and not tell your agents and be in a place where you don't have an ISDN studio. That would be one. You know, when you're working with a client that's, you know, the folks at David and Goliath who have the Kia account are true. And I'm not saying this to blow smoke up their ass. They're exceptional creatives, and they're on top of their game. They're on top of their client. And they say, you know, when I first got that account, they said, dude, there will be weeks where we need you every day, and sometimes for multiple sessions in the day. I mean, there will be times where I'll have one session with one producer, and then but they've got you know, a ton of different producers who all are creating various pieces of content, whether it's web or radio or TV, all for one client. And you have to be prepared for that. Which to me, I think that means different things to different people. For me, it certainly means keeping my health up. You know, I don't drink after, you know, I don't drink with dinner, you know, maybe on a Friday or something, but I don't drink. I exercise regularly, and my phone is always on. I've had sessions for Kia at 1 a.m.
Wow.
I kid you not. Multiple times. And and you know, some people might complain about that. But it's an honor. Like, it really, really is. And it's funny. Like, if my voiceover Jesse career could look at myself from 5 years ago, look at where I'm at now, I'd probably think, wow, man, like, it's, you know, everything's, you've got it made. Everything's figured out. You're working every day. You're got a, you know, house and a car and all that kind of stuff. But it's you know, like they say, the grass is always greener. And so you see both sides of things. Like, there are times when I'm not able to take a long, you know, 4-day weekend away, you know, even if I don't have a session booked on Monday, like, something will come up. So I forget what the question was. Where are we going with that?
I don't know. You did a great job of answering.
Hashtag ADD.
There you go.
Hashtag VO podcast. Hashtag ADD.
That's very, very appropriate. No, Jesse, whatever question it was, you did a great job of answering. Because you led me to my next question. You mentioned talking about, you did mention that you had an agent, and that's sometimes how you can get some of these gigs and these clients. Any other way that you find new clients and new voiceover work?
Yeah. Well, let me talk about the agent side of things first, because I've had a few different agents since being in LA when I turned 18, and they're, you know, getting an agent, a bi-coastal agent, where you're getting work from, you know, New York and LA, it can be a challenge, right? And it's, you know, it's something you hear all the time. It's sort of a catch-22. Like, you need to have work under your belt to sign with an agent, almost without exception. But how do you get the work without an agent? So
that's the conundrum.
Yeah. So certainly early on, it's marketing yourself, and it's making cold calls and sending emails to production companies. And but it's interesting because I was with a really great, you know, big agency for voiceover in LA up until a couple of years ago, when you know, I'm always doing my own marketing to production companies with, you know, potential clients. And I sent an email to the head of the creative department. I won't say the company's name, but the head of the creative department at a big production company that does branding content for networks. And I'd been in contact with him and sent him my demo. And he a couple of weeks later sent me a script for a new project for the Science Channel. And he said, you know, I love your voice. I'd love to hear you read on this. And you know, maybe to be a fit. So, you know, I sent an audition right away. And then I got a call from him probably within a few hours after I sent that in, saying, okay, so here's the deal. We like your voice for this project. The network likes your voice. Who's your agent? Let's get you booked on this. Well, I'm not going to go into the details of my previous agent, but let's just say there was a little bit of, headbutting going on. So, and my contract was up. So I took that opportunity to, I'd been in touch with Atlas Talent, which in my opinion is the greatest voiceover agency on the planet. I mean, everything goes through them. And I'd taken a couple of meetings with them over the years. Excuse me. And so up until that point, it had always been, there's a conflict in your category. We love you, keep in touch, but now's not the right time. So when I got that call from this producer, I called Heather at Atlas Talent and I said, hey, so here's the situation. I've got this booking request from this producer, and here's the project. And I'm wondering if, maybe I could just let him run it through you as my agent. And, you can take the commission because I've already got it booked. You don't have to do any work. It's done. And so she called me and she said, okay, first of all of our talent read on this spot and nobody booked it. And we didn't know who booked it. And sure enough, we find out like okay, so you booked this project. So she's like, okay, maybe we should take you seriously. And it was awesome because it, that self-marketing, that's kind of an unusual way to make it work. But there's no better way to sign with an agent than coming in saying, I've got free commission for you. And I'm already booking. Here's the project. You just take it. So that I didn't sign with them right away, but it was about a month later. They immediately, they took that project and then they put me on sort of a trial with the agency, and just a month later, a few weeks later, very shortly after, I booked in that trial, booked a huge campaign with them that as soon as that happened, they said, all right, we're signing you, we're bringing you on. Of course, it's a no-brainer. So that was, it was really cool. It's another testament to you always, even with an agent, you always have to be marketing yourself. And anytime I book a project that through my own marketing, to me, that's just an opportunity to build my existing relationship with my agents and build that equity by referring the project to them, saying like, I've got this project, here it is, take the commission. They say about every industry is all about who you know, but it's true. I mean, it is. And it's not just about who you know, but it's about maintaining that relationship in a healthy way. And giving back to them. And that means like remembering birthdays. I've got 12 agents at Atlas. All their birthdays are on my calendar. It's remembering birthdays. It's stopping by. It's making FaceTime. It's, I was just at the Hollywood office today, and talking to Carly, who's just the sweetest lady in the world and an awesome commercial agent, and she's expecting a baby in about a month, and so talking with her about that, and with sincerity, because I've got a lot of great friends in my life, but my agents are definitely some of my best friends. I think that's important.
Well, I've heard a lot of different people talking about building relationships with your clients, building relationships in business in general, but you're talking about really definitive things that you could do. So I really appreciate those things. I'm definitely going to be sharing a lot of those as hashtag VO tips. So
hashtag VO tips.
Knocking them out. I should be jotting this down. So let's talk a little bit more about your home studio. I know that you have a booth in which you record, and I think right now you're just sort of like in your office.
Right now I'm in the living room.
That's set up.
So you're probably, I didn't do a sound check or anything before, but I'm sure you're hearing the air conditioning, my dog barking, planes flying by. I live right next to the airport, the Burbank airport. So that's another, better have a soundproof booth here or you're toast.
No, you sound quite good actually. I'm
Cool.
I'm not hearing anything too bad. Of course, we're working with this Google Hangout audio, and actually, I think they're doing all right. They did a good job with this. I think it's been sounding
all right.
good.
Yeah, let's see if they roll out some sort of flagship product that can compete with Source Connect or IPDTL or something. That'd be cool. They've got the infrastructure, they got the cash. Come on, Google.
Next level stuff right there.
Yeah.
So do you mind telling us what maybe microphone you're most comfortable with, or the microphone that you maybe use for different types of projects?
Yeah, it depends on the project, definitely. But certainly for, I think every promo I do is on the 416. I think that's kind of, I think most people would say the go-to promo mic, Sennheiser MKH 416. And I've had that for a long time. I've got a couple of them. I think it's really important also to have a backup for every piece of equipment, everything in your chain, because shit breaks like it does. And it always breaks in the middle of a session or at the worst possible time. So you've got to be able to swap something in right away.
Really good point.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of 416s. Okay. So one somewhat recent toy that I acquired that I've been loving is the Rode NT1. So it's not an expensive microphone. It's I think it's probably around $300.
I think it's about right.
Yeah. So they've got Rode has the NT1A. I think they've had that out for a while, and the NT2, and those are different microphones. So if you Google Rode NT1, it's possible the first thing that will pop up is the NT1A. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Rode NT1. It came out, I think maybe a year and a half, maybe a couple of years ago. But as soon as I saw it and read some of the specs about it, I picked one up right away because getting technical here. If you look at the frequency response on the Rode NT1, it's about as flat as you can get in a microphone like that. And the reason that's important is because, if you plug it straight into your preamp, throw on some cans and listen to your voice, it's going to sound a little lackluster because there's essentially no EQ spikes at any point on the frequency curve. So there's no boomy bass on the low end. There's no sizzle at the 4K range or anything like that. It's just really flat. So if you take that frequency response curve and compare it to, say, the Neumann U87, which is another sort of common industry standard for especially for like character stuff or some commercials, anything that's got a bigger dynamic range in your performance and your volume. It's pretty much an identical frequency response, which is pretty kick-ass, and engineers love it. There are some. I've got a couple of infomercial clients that when I'm doing stuff for them, I'll hop on that mic because I know and they know that they can get whatever they want out of it. It's super flat. So, and that's important because if you've got a microphone that's super crispy, it's got something, a lot of brightness on the higher end. If you need to pull that down, then you're destroying the way, you're removing parts of the information that's up there and compensating in other areas. It's much easier to boost in certain areas than to try and find problematic areas and pull that down. So a really flat response curve like that is pretty kick-ass, and engineers love it. And if you like side by side that with a U87, maybe a really experienced trained engineer would hear the difference, but honestly, I can't. So if you're looking for a kick-ass mic for, especially if you do a lot of animation or characters, which I do not, I very rarely work in that space, but it's great for that. And then if you've got somebody who helps you with your studio, or somebody who's an audio engineer who can kind of point you in the right directions for doing a little bit of EQ and post to get it exactly where you want for, say, sending auditions out. Because if you send an audition out, you want it to at least kind of cut through a little bit. right? Like you don't want to EQ the shit out of it, and you don't want to compress it, and they want to hear it natural, right? But then that mic has a lot of flexibility, and it's really inexpensive. I think Rode's really outdone themselves with that, and definitely a favorite of mine. Yeah.
Well, cool. Yeah, honestly, that's one of the microphones I'm looking forward to buying. I don't think I can afford the Neumann. But these Rode microphones have been getting really great reviews, and I'm looking forward to trying one out myself. I've had a couple guests tell me about using the Rode NT1A. I think one of my guys used the NT2A. I've also read that someone on Twitter uses the NT1A specifically for doing. It was a female VO specifically for doing audiobooks, and she found that that seemed to work quite well for that. So you talked a little bit before about doing commercials way back in the day. Maybe you were just mentioning this to me privately, but and then now you say you do a lot of work in commercials. Do you do any? Do you have any other specialties, promos, or so forth? That you did mention promos. Anything else?
Yeah, I think promos are really, really fun. That's I'm relatively new at AXS TV, but I've loved working with them for the past 5 months or so, because their AXS TV, if you're not familiar with the network, they do live coverage of huge music festivals, and I'm a big music festival fan. EDC music festival. I love music festivals. When I'm taking a weekend away, I probably go to 10 music festivals a year, and maybe even more. I don't know. But they do live coverage of music festivals, and it's awesome because they like Stagecoach, which is a country music festival. I'm not a big country fan, but and Coachella is a huge festival out here in California. So working with them, and I think Ben Patrick Johnson was doing some of the other stuff on the network, and working with AXS has been awesome because, first of all, they're calling pretty much every day, and it's really cool to be able to do say all of my favorite artists' names, be sort of introducing them on live broadcasts, and it's really exciting. I was at Coachella this year, and then coming back from that and watching some of the live coverage of Stagecoach on AXS was awesome, because all of my Coachella friends were over here hanging out, and we're watching Stagecoach, and I'm every 30 seconds, every few minutes, it's me, I'm introducing another artist. It's pretty cool. So network promos are awesome, but as the caveat there is that people talk about like the golden chain. It's an awesome gig. Promos are a really steady gig. It usually means daily work, but it also usually means daily work, right? Like
that's the double-edged
you can't. Yeah, like if I'm going to the grocery store, like I gotta tell my agent, like I'm gonna be gone for a few hours, or an hour, whatever the case may be, if I've got to go somewhere in the middle of the day, because they'll call and say, like, we need you now, or we need you in 5 minutes. Or there have been times when I've been in I was just a couple of weeks ago over at Margarita Mix in Santa Monica, which is a really kick-ass, beautiful studio on the west side, doing a new campaign for Kia. And then sure enough, right as I show up there, AXS TV is emailing saying like, oh, we have a promo we need to get on the air at 1. And I'm like, oh, it's 12:30, and I'm about to go into this commercial session, and then right then there's a gas leak at the building next door, so the entire building gets evacuated. And I'm like talking to the engineer for our Kia session, man, do you think we can I can sneak in there and do something really quick? And I mean, promos are awesome, but it's you got to be ready for it, and you can't be running all over the place. It's a heavy commitment for sure. And then same with Jimmy Kimmel. I do get to do some of the comedy little sketch narrations and fake commercials and all that kind of stuff for his show. And that's another thing. Like the writers are brainstorming ideas at 10 in the morning, and they're they're brainstorming and tweaking and updating scripts, and they're shooting the content for those, like if it's a fake commercial, they're shooting that stuff at 1 p.m. and finalizing the script and changing things as that's happening. And then they start taping the show. It's live to tape. So basically, it's gotta be done at 3 p.m. So I'll get, I'll get a script for that. And then at 2:45, I'll record that. And then, 10 minutes later, it's 2:55. They're like, we updated this line. It needs to change. Or Jimmy doesn't like the way this is worded, or whatever the case may be. And it's like immediate. Like anytime a project comes in for that, my agent's like, you have to be within 5 minutes tops of your microphone until 6 p.m. In case they need to make some last minute update, or there's something with sensors doesn't clear. You just gotta be ready. So it's awesome. It's super, super fun. And I love, going to bed at night and flipping on the TV, and there's some funny sketch, with Kimmel and, Lindsay Lohan playing a part, or it's really cool. Yeah, it's fun. So I guess a lot of different space. One emerging space that, I don't work in this space anymore because they've gone all non-union, but gas station TV for a while. There are these gas station pumps all over the country now that have TV screens built into every pump, and they're running these little bits of content or excerpts from some show, and in between those that are little promos, hey, it's $2.99 for a Pepsi, whatever, come on inside right now. And so that's another thing where when I was working with them, I was doing stuff every day. And so for non-union talent, I think SAG-AFTRA has just launched this initiative to recapture non-union work, which, sorry, non-union people, that means SAG-AFTRA is going going after the producers to try and flip them union on some of the projects you're working on now. But that said, the vast majority of work out there is non-union work, and it's everywhere. I mean, it's on hold, it's audiobooks, it's you name it, it's limitless. And with the internet, it's more and more I do a ton of explainer videos, every day. And that's because every company that wants to get past year 2 without crashing and burning, they know they need that on their website. They know they need it front and center, and that they know the metrics that increases their conversion rate by a substantial percentage. And that means they're willing to pay for that kind of work. So that's another avenue to pursue with your own marketing. There are, if you check out mandy.com, mandy.com, that there's a directory of production companies in the United States, and there are thousands of them. And you can go one by one down this list of production companies in every region. And of course, with voiceover, it doesn't really matter where you are now. I mean, I work with people in literally every state. So you can go one by one down this list, find their phone numbers or their mailing addresses or their email addresses, and don't attach MP3s to your email, by the way. That'll flag their spam filters, and it's just bad business, in my opinion. If you're going to send a demo in an email, send it via a link. Everybody appreciates that. Nobody wants their email cluttered up by a bunch of megabytes that are unsolicited. But you can contact these production companies, and you can, they might not have work right then, but the important thing is to be completely respectful, completely courteous, and to say, hey, would you like me to check back with you in 6 months or something? And 95% of the time they'll say yes. And 10% of the time when you do, they'll have something for you. And there are, like I said, thousands of production companies like that. And you'd be surprised how many of them only have a couple of people on their roster of go-to VO talent. So that means there's an immense amount of work out there for you. If you don't have an agent, if you're not with a big union agency, there's a ton of stuff that you can get just with a little bit of your own work.
So it seems like you seem to be talking about something that I've been thinking, which is that there's plenty of work in the voiceover world. It seems like there's just lots and lots of jobs available and lots of work to be done. Obviously, some jobs are going to be more, well-paying than others, and these are, in effect, sometimes the jobs that we are competing over. How, Jesse? And I know you've been spending a lot of time with me, and I want to make sure that you know that I truly appreciate.
I've been rambling, man. I'm usually not much of a rambler, but I've been rambling.
That's
asking
exactly
good questions. I guess that's what it is.
You're here to ramble on, my man. So we've yeah, what was I going to say here? We're talking about some things, and the ideas have been really cool, and I forgot what I was going to say. So you mentioned Mandy.
You said something about rates, and I think you said something about rates and reaching out to, I don't know.
I'm not sure. You've talked about a lot of different really cool things, and yeah, just one more time, I just want to thank you for being here, Jesse. It's been really cool chatting with you. Don't stop rambling. Oh, so we were talking about how you are pretty much a baller in every which way.
A shot caller, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am. I'm a baller. We're all ballers. You're a baller if you say you are. Oh no, did I lose you? Dan has gone silent. I do not know if that means I am silent as well. Hello, can you hear me? Well, we're still live streaming. Hi, everybody. And a message has entered. Where are we? All right, Dan says, whoa, got disconnected freestyle. In West Philadelphia, born and raised. That's the only line I know from that track. Yeah, so I guess I'll just keep on rambling. Yeah, for those of you who are
there.
Oh, and he's back.
I think
regresado.
Were you speaking Spanish that whole time?
I was speaking Spanish that whole time.
Well, you know, we're here for all types of different viewers.
Yeah.
We're so it looks like things are stabilizing here. Thanks for hanging on there.
Course,
we are wrapping things up here, but I just wanted to ask you, and you were talking about getting lots of different work. And I was talking about how there's lots of work available, and there seems to be tons of voice actors who are willing to do that work. But of course, we're competing in a sense. You know, we're competing over the maybe the best paying jobs, or the jobs with the best clients, or just the jobs that are most creatively fulfilling in some sense. What do you do to stay on top of your game and stay competitive in the VO business?
I DVR all of my favorite shows and lots of my non-favorite shows, and I don't watch them. I fast forward to the commercials, and I watch the commercials. And I still watch some of my favorite shows. I'm behind on Game of Thrones though by a few episodes. Don't spoil anything. But of course HBO doesn't have commercials, so.
Yeah.
But no, I DVR a lot of shows, and I do not fast forward through the commercials. I think it's important to know if I see a commercial on the air and it's voiced by a guy, there's probably a 60% chance that I audition for it. So that means for one reason or another, I didn't book it, and I want to know who did, and I want to know why, and I want to know what they did differently than I did. And a lot of times I'll find that they did something that went completely against what the direction was in the original specs. Like it may have said something really conversational, and they went like an over-the-top wacky announcer. Or and this has been happening a lot more often. I'm seeing a big percentage of the commercial campaigns that I'm not booking, I'm seeing on TV, and they're voiced by a woman, which is awesome, because you look back 5-10 years ago, that wasn't the case. But there are a ton of new opportunities opening up for women. And I think more and more really cutting edge creative shops are realizing that, you know, the old school mentality is, you know, people are more compelled to buy something if it's a man telling them about it. And you know, I'm sure there was some sort of psychological reasoning behind that, but the reality is that's not the case anymore. So as far as what was the question again? Finding work or
you know, how you stay competitive.
yes. Okay. So staying competitive. Well, my female voice is not very competitive.
Yeah,
So,
it's tricky.
so in that sense, if a woman books it, I wouldn't have had a shot. But yeah, it's always it's don't fast forward through commercials. If you want to work in commercials, you have to listen to them, and you have to know why people are booking them. And another handy tool for that is ispot.tv, ispot.tv. So if you see a commercial that you like, or the performance stood out to you, a lot of times, or almost every commercial, if it's a national commercial, it will be after its first airing, it'll be on that website, and in many cases, the actor, the VO talent will be credited, so you can, you know, they're like the Samsung Galaxy S5 campaigns was one of my favorite campaigns from a VO performance perspective of the last couple of years, and so it stood out to me. I looked it up and saw that it was this comedian, I think Neil Brennan, who just had this, like, you know, you hear direction that says conversation. Every script that comes through now says conversational, and 50% of the time that's not even what they really want. But, you know, he had this beautiful delivery in all of those campaigns, all of those spots, that was just so conversational. It was like he was like whispering to his bro, like on a road trip or something. Like, just, I mean, just so organic and cool. And so I listen and I watch and I pay attention, and then I educate myself. I think coaching is really important, and you hear people say that all the time. And dude, like, I heard that for 10 years and I didn't take it seriously. Or not 10 years, but you know, into my early 20s, I just really didn't take it seriously. Like, I took some acting classes and you know, thought like, oh, I get the gist of it. You know, I know how to be authentic on mic, but holy shit, it's part of my language. But you can get so taking, okay, if you're in LA, Calmanson, you hear people talk about it all the time. It changed the game for me, seriously. Like, I finally had this epiphany moment where I understood like how to just forget that there's a microphone in front of me when that's what's required, and just be totally authentic in whatever the situation may be, whatever the constraints may be. And that is yeah, even if you're not working in commercials, like video games, animation, whatever, like, you have to know how to do that. And if you think you know how to do it, and there's a very good chance you don't. Like, I thought I did. I thought I had a grasp on it, and that just opened my eyes. And like, I you know, without having gone through that experience, I would not be working with the clients I'm working with now. I would not be making the money I'm making now. I would not, like, everything would just be completely different. So I think that's really important. And if you want to work in promos, same thing. There are a lot of I guess the problem with promos is, if you want to do coaching in promos, the really, really good people who coach in promos only coach people who are with an agency that does, like, who are with Atlas Talent or you know, DPN or something, because they work on a referral basis and they won't take your call or your email. So that's kind of, you know, a little unfortunate there. But, you know, again, another catch-22. But seek out coaching. and be wary of coaching that I want to be careful how I say this. So there are a lot of really, really great, talented VO people who coach on the side. And, you know, some of them are they're really good. But lots of them have kind of mastered this art of online marketing and have mastered this art of self-promotion and through social channels and so on. And that's not to say they're not a great VO talent, but they might not be the best coach for you. It depends on where you're at, and it depends on your needs. But I would, you know, a VO talent is not going to be hiring you. And I'm not trying to say that you should take classes exclusively from casting directors with the hopes that they're going to call you and hire you, but they do. I mean, Kalmanson again. They've called me since I took some classes with them, and I've booked work through them. So that's another benefit of coaching. If you coach with the right people, they're decision makers.
Well, cool. There's a lot of really cool stuff in there. I think I'm gonna strip everything you just said and put it into a little transcript and make it one big long VO tip. There's lots of really good things in there. Thank you for thanks for those bits of information and those bits of advice. Thank you so much, Jesse. Let's go ahead and wrap things up here. I'm just wondering if maybe you could think of a younger Jesse Springer, or even folks who you've worked with through your career who could use bits of advice. Is there anything coming to mind? Maybe what would you tell a younger Jesse Springer or someone with less experience than yourself?
Chill out. That would be the number one thing, especially for myself, that I would tell myself. I spent so much time, years, I didn't even know if it was worrying, but just like constantly nagging in the back of my head is this, like, I have to book this gig, or I get an audition that came in for a cool campaign and I'm like, I really need this, or I really want, even if it's like put need aside, like I really want this. And the ironic thing is, like, some of the biggest work that I've booked has been, when I auditioned for it, I kind of didn't take it that seriously. Like, that's not to say like I don't treat auditions like they're important, but it came from a place of total satisfaction with where I was at currently. And casting directors, creative directors, they hear desperation through the microphone. Even if you don't think you're being desperate, even if you think like, I'm just being totally chill, you know, like that's what they want, I'm just chill, you know, they can hear it if you want the gig. And I guarantee you, especially if it's one of those authentic performance, conversational style pieces, you will lose out if they smell that. And again, another catch-22. Like, it's not easy to get to that place, but chill out. Like, chill out. Work on your breathing is another really important one. For me, that's meditation. That's taking time after I wake up in the morning. You know, for some people it's prayer. For some people, you know, there are different methods for different people. Just depends on where you're at. But take some time to just relax, because it's not a big deal. Like, you could never book a voiceover job for the rest of your life and the world would not end. Just let it slip away. Let tomorrow worry about itself. Just let it go. And it's easier said than done, for sure. But just have fun, you know, just chill out, breathe, have fun.
Cool. Jesse, thank you again for being in here today, and really for spending your time with us and sharing your knowledge and just sharing your stories with us. It's been really cool for me to sit and chat with you and hear about all these different things. So thank you once again.
Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure, and thanks for putting up with my last minute session right as we're trying to get on.
Hey, that's how the business works, and yeah, I'm glad you were able to get that project all finished up, and we got the interview done as well. So I guess we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. Again, my name is Dan Simpson on Twitter at iDanSimpsonVO. My guest today was Jesse Springer at Jesse Springer. You could find us on the Twitter at the VO Podcast, and the hashtag VO Podcast will be sharing VO tips, hashtag VO tips that Jesse just bombed us with. He just gave us loads and loads of really great, excellent advice that I'm looking forward to turning into VO tips and sharing through our Twitter. So let's go ahead and I guess we'll tell the people goodbye. Jesse, say goodbye.
Sayonara, amigos.
All
Have
right,
a good
bye,
one.
y'all. Have a great day. Peace now.